America's Wealth Coach, and it's time to get wealthy. You're going to learn exactly what you need to know and do to finally achieve the level of financial success you desire and you deserve. Comedian Eddie Murphy recently shared the ultimate secret to success. First, he said, pay your taxes. Next, he said, mind your business. I'm not going to repeat the third thing that he said, but what we all can relate to is the many people who find themselves in trouble because of taxes. Well, I'm excited today because our guest joining us is going to share with us some wealthy tax hacks that we can use, and also exactly what we need to do to turn our wages into wealth. But here are the three things they don't really want you to know about taxes. First, it's not how much you earn, it's how much you keep. Next, that the wealthy, they get wealthier because they know how to take advantage of taxes. Thirdly, getting a tax refund is not necessarily a tax-savvy money move. Well, here to explain it all to us and make it plain is Spicita Jackson. She's a CPA, and she manages her own tax practice and shares with business owners, with individuals, what they need to do to become tax savvy. And I'm excited to welcome Spicita on to Get Wealthy today. Welcome to Get Wealthy, Spicita.
Hi, thank you, Deborah. Thank you for having me, and I'm ready.
You're ready. I hope you're ready because, you know, I got such a chuckle out of watching Eddie Murphy said that, but you know, what he said was true. I mean, think about all the entertainers that find themselves in, you know, pretty dire financial straits just from not understanding taxes and the impact that they have. And so before we even get into the program, I really want our viewers to know sort of your path. How did you choose to become a CPA and now are managing your own practice?
Well, I actually started in accounting at 16 years old. So people tease me all the time. You know, I always wanted to be an accountant. And it was just, I like math, I like numbers. And, you know, I interned in accounting and I love business. I think I have a natural connection to business. And I thought that my earlier path, I wanted to, you know, do accounting because I was good at math and work for the big four accounting firm, had the opportunity to move to New York. And then now we're in Atlanta. And I started my firm during a recession. And how we got where we are today, Deborah, is because what I realized is that taxes is the biggest expense that you would ever have. And even though I majored in accounting, taxes was not my focus, right? And because taxes is one of the largest expenses you ever have, you really got to know how to manage that thing and get that under control so that you can build wealth.
Well, I do. I really love the way you characterize taxes as being an expense, because I don't often feel like people have that perspective on it. And often we look at taxes as an obligation. And what I have found in the work that I do from an investing standpoint is people don't recognize that the reason the wealthy are wealthier is because they know how to implement tax advantage strategies. And I think back to Eddie Murphy's statement about pay your taxes. Yes, pay your taxes, but pay the amount, you know, the legal amount that you should, and not necessarily, you know, feel like whatever number you come out with, that's what you should pay.
I think what Eddie was probably just trying to say is, look, pay your taxes, but don't overpay your taxes, is what I usually tell my clients. And I say, pocket more profit, pocket more of your wealth so it can grow on. One of the funny things, I saw this meme, and it was they were carrying this body out, and the body just rolled out of the casket. And I'm like, you know what? That body reminds me of taxes, because once your money goes into or goes out to taxes, it never comes back to you, right? And it's what we call a sunk cost, and it's definitely an expense. I really love how you made the distinction, Deborah, between expense and obligation, right?
Yes.
People look at it as an obligation. Yes, it is a rule, right? And if we have to obey the laws of the land. When you earn income, you're expected to pay taxes on your net earnings. Now, there are laws in place that make your earnings not taxable. And I think that you got to make sure that your money doesn't unnecessarily turn into a tax expense, because that's an expense that you'll never get back. And my phrase is, make sure that you keep your money so that it can grow, GROW, own. Because once it goes to taxes, it's not growing on.
I love that. Well, you know what, Spicita, man, that meme that you just described, what it had me think about, the only thing in life that's sure is death and taxes, talking about the
Look, you even pay taxes after you die. You pay taxes. Life is taxed, which is what I titled my upcoming book. It's called Life is Taxed. I mean, even babies are taxed. Deborah, I like to tell this story. You said, how did I get started? I have always, like I said, been an accountant, but when I was 6 years old, my mom took me to the store. And she took me to the store, and I had just learned how to count. My son, he's in the second grade now, and I have a daughter in kindergarten, but that reminds me of them. I go to the store, and I just learned how to count, and I give the lady my change, and she shorted me a nickel, okay? And I bet she still remembered this to this day. There was this long line in the convenience store. I stopped, and I said, ma'am, you owe me a nickel. And she turned around and she like dismissed me. My mom, being the typical mom, come on, let's go, being embarrassed. I said, no, mom, she owes me a nickel. And so I waited there for her to open her register, and she paid me. So she did pay me, Deb. But on that day, what I realized is, number one, I was taxed making my first purchase. That was sales tax. And number two, I did at an early age what most people don't do. I counted my change. And that's one of the most important things that we must do, especially when it comes to taxes. We feel as though, like you said, it's an obligation, and whatever the tax bill is, or whatever, once someone plugs some information into a tax software, that once they plug it in, that the answer that they give is obviously our bill. Right? It's obviously our change, but that is so not true. So
so before you go further, because I do think that's important, Spicita, is and I thought about the fact that you said I always wanted to be an accountant. Now I'm thinking in my mind, no, Spicita, you always loved money. And going back to the point of your being 6 years old, but we're kind of like-minded in that regard, and we're both focused on helping people build wealth. But I want to go to the framework for our program is really mindset, strategy, and execution. So I want to start this segment in mindset, because what you're talking about really speaks to that. The mindset of someone who is tax that understands that it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep. So to that point, the first question I have for you is, what is the mindset shift that people, everyday people who are earning a wage need to adopt in order to keep more of what they earn?
I think you have to stop looking at taxes, like you said, as an obligation. That's a great point, because what happens is we think it's our obligation because when we go and work for someone, right, we don't even know what taxes we're paying. Most people are going to get a W-2 right now, and all they're going to do is go hand that document to an accountant and blindly just take what is given, right, without strategy. And one of the things I think you must first do is understand a little bit about taxes. Start with your W-2. Know that you're paying income tax. Social Security, and Medicare. How much of that are you paying? And know that you can properly control it, and how you can take some of your money, even though it's a wage, shift it over. Because one of the mindsets that we even don't even know that we're kind of getting trained to think, we're literally as employees trained to just accept it because we never get it anyway. So it's money that we never, ever even got a chance to touch. It's only money that we can ask for back. Isn't that interesting?
It is interesting, but to your point, Spicita, but now what I want to ask you about is the framework for success on this program is mindset, strategy, and execution. Mm-hmm. So that's where I want to start with you. I mean, one of the points that you make is that taxes are one of your largest expenses. And so much of that is just around people feeling like they got to pay whatever they owe. And so let's start with mindset. What are the things that people need to do in terms of shifting their mindset so that they understand they can actually manage how much they pay in taxes?
Okay, so one of the mindset shifts we have to have is that saying that you and I have repeated a million times, right? The one thing that's for sure in life is death and taxes, or whatever. You're going to stay whatever color you are, and you're going to pay taxes until the day you go, right? And so with that mindset, we have this thing in our head that there's nothing we can do about it. But there is something you can do about it, right? You got to realize that you don't have to be taxed on whatever, right? We do have to obey the laws of the land, but we don't want to overpay in taxes, and we want to allow our money to grow on. Now, one of the things you got to think about is we're trained, like I said, to get our W-2, and before we even get our money, the tax money is gone, because everybody can remember getting a job and getting, like my first job, I made $9 an hour, right? And I remember I worked, I worked 10 hours. I thought I was going to make $90. But when I got my check, it was $50, right? And so, you start that from the first time you get your job at 15, and you're automatically knowing that, look, I'm going to give it 100%, but I'm not going to take home 100%. And one of the ways that we got to realize is that the tax code has been designed for entrepreneurs and not necessarily wage earners. So I like to give, there's 3 things that you got to do. You got to make sure that, number one, like you're saying, have that mindset shift that you're stop replaying that thing in your head that says, I'm going to pay taxes. I'm going to stay Black until I die, and I'm going to pay taxes until I die. But you can get out of taxes, right?
Yes.
You can actually start an entrepreneurship because the tax code was meant for that, right? You can put money over into retirement because the tax code was made to say, hey, if you're not going to use the money, why don't we do this? If you're not going to use it, but you want to use it later in retirement, the tax code is made so you can store up money to use later. And the thing about that is most people have their lowest income tax rate in retirement. So the goal is to take your money, build it up so that it can grow on either through retirement, real estate, or business. And so know that, number one, you don't have to just accept your tax bill. Make sure that it's not overstated. Okay.
Well, you know what, Spicita, I want to say this because you're bringing up something really interesting that I don't feel like most people are aware of because of what you said. We get a job, they start taking money out. We just feel like, oh, okay, take the money out. Then we do our taxes and we're like, oh, I hope I get a refund and I don't have to pay. So we never think about strategy. And so to that point, the other question that I have for you is, how do people begin to understand how they can use their, how they can reduce their earned income legally because of how, and you alluded to that, because of how the government incentivizes entrepreneurs, saving for retirement, and real estate?
So the one thing that you can do is, number one, make sure that you track your expenses. So people are trained to also think that, oh, I'm only tracking my expenses because I don't want to overpay in the area of meals. I don't want to overpay in the area of entertainment. I got to budget myself on travel costs. I want to have to watch how much I'm shopping for groceries and clothes and things like that. How about this? How about you track how much you're spending on taxes? Because life is tax, sales tax when you shop, income tax, property tax. Keep up with that because you don't have to pay taxes on all of your income when you apply certain legal tax strategies.
That's great. That's a great segue because that's exactly where I want to go next. And that really is strategy. So don't go anywhere, folks. We're talking with Spicita Jackson. She's a CPA. She has her own practice in Atlanta, and she also does training around how you can make these shifts so you can keep more of what you earn.
Let's be honest, as successful women, we're crushing it. Maxed out 401k and Roth IRA? Check. Aggressive savings and investments? Check. Yet, the freedom our success was supposed to buy can leave us stuck on the six-figure hamster wheel, watching retirement slip further down the road. There's another way. Get coaching courses and community at wealthyu.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Deborah Owens, and you're watching Get Wealthy. And we're learning how to get wealthy by turning our wages into wealth with Spicita Jackson. She's a CPA, and she's here sharing with us some of the strategies that she uses with her clients. So, Spicita, we talked about mindset and the shifts and the fact that so many of us feel like, oh, taxes are just something that we owe. And in the last segment, we left off with, and to my point, what they don't want you to know is that that's how the wealthy get wealthier, understanding how the framework for taxes is designed to incentivize certain behaviors. And as a wage owner, you often feel like, well, I don't have a business. I can't take advantage of that. So let's start there. What are some of the strategies that someone just earning a paycheck can take advantage of?
I say, I just wrote a blog recently, and I say there's three ways to wealth. One thing is we have Airbnbs out here now. Real estate, you don't actually even have to buy a building. So I say real estate is one way. Number two is business. Side hustle. Business comes in so many different ways. Most people will be in business or doing a side hustle and not even know that they're in business. What I find is sometimes when I'm doing taxes, Deborah, I'll talk to people and they may say, you know what? I actually drive for Uber on the side, or I'm actually baking, cakes for my church or for a restaurant on the side, but they don't want to report the income. And
tell it, girl, tell it.
They really need to report the income because if you're baking cakes out of your home, guess what? That makes your kitchen tax deductible, right? If you're storing the equipment because you need industrial equipment because you're serving restaurants, guess what? You're storing it in your garage. Your garage is now tax deductible because it's filled with equipment. If you're selling t-shirts, now your garage is tax deductible. Every time you drive your car and you're dropping off your deliveries, now that's tax deductible, right? It doesn't benefit you to not recognize your business because business converts your spending into investment.
Say that again, because I think that is the major shift that people have to understand around wealth, and that is leveraging the way you earn. And so if I'm a solopreneur and, I'm afraid to report income because I think oftentimes that's what people do, or maybe I'm an entrepreneur Spicita, and I know you run into that, and maybe I haven't properly done my taxes, or I haven't, filed because maybe I haven't properly kept records. What strategy would you give to encourage people to understand that there are ways that you can leverage your current situation regardless of any concerns that you might have?
Now, the first thing I want to say is get an accountant. Don't have someone from H&R Block doing your taxes. If you're making money, and I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but don't just have or someone doing your taxes who is not familiar with your tax situation, because taxes is just like advice. Stop taking other people's tax advice, right? And somebody said, oh, I'm doing it and I'm not reporting it, or I'm an entrepreneur and I made my business an S Corp. That has to be for me. I think people have to, first of all, not be afraid to show up for themselves, right? Because a part of showing up for yourself financially, in my opinion, is starting with understanding your taxes. And I'm not saying you need to be a tax master. I'm just saying you need to talk to someone who can explain to you, hey, when you go, and they can help you organize your finances in a way that you're tracking expenses so that you can help your accountant identify deductions. Because I bet people are losing over 20% in taxes, or overpaying at least 20% in taxes for failure to keep up with how they're spending their money, and not even telling their accountant that they spent money on equipment to start baking cakes, right? Because they don't want to tell me about their business. But guess what? There's this depreciation expense called Section 179. And that investment that you put into the equipment to start baking, 20 cakes at a time versus baking 2 or 3 or 4 cakes at a time, that entire expense, even though you financed it, even though you put it on your credit card, even though the money never left your bank account, that is an investment in your business and not an expense, right?
Well, it is interesting, Spicita. I know how passionate you are about this.
No, you got to come in and stop me, Deborah, because this is my thing. This is my ministry.
That's exactly why I'm doing this, because I know once you get down a threat. But Spicita, I do think that you're bringing up a very good point. And so the other question I have for you is, in terms of strategy, how do I know the difference? I go to a tax preparer. There are many of them. Some are enrolled agents, some are CPAs. How do I actually identify the type of tax strategies, if you will, that I need to have so that I can take full advantage and keep more of the money I earn?
Well, what dropped in my spirit and immediately was, you shall know the tree by the fruit that it bears. Okay.
Okay.
And so I'm not saying, hey, go to a CPA. I'm not saying go to an enroll agent. If you're a business owner, you need to talk to somebody who understands business expenses and business financials. Because what I say is, bad financials make bad tax returns, not bad people, right? Not bad decisions. It's bad financials. If you're a high wage earner, right, and you're saying, oh, my taxes hurt, but you keep going to the same place over and over again, right? That's insanity. Your taxes hurt because you haven't made a new decision to work with someone who actually understands you and understands your situation. If you got a heart problem, you're not just going to go to the general practitioner. If you got cancer, you're not going to go to the general practitioner. You're going to go to the heart surgeon or the cancer doctor. So if you're a business owner,
no, go ahead.
If you're a business owner, you need to be working with someone who can help you get to the right number, because it's all about having the right number. Otherwise, you're going to overpay in taxes.
The point that you're making, Spicita, is really that there's a difference between accounting for your money after the fact and having a tax strategy before, right?
Yes.
And specifically when it does come to, so I guess the question I have for you, and especially for our viewers, at what point, like, you hear all of this craziness on social media now, people take a course and now they're an expert and they're telling you, well, open up an LLC. Well, you need an S Corp, and they're giving all this different advice. How do you discern, right, what type of advice you need?
What you need to do is track your expenses. That's the first thing you need to do. And you discern what type of advice that you need is talking with a professional, looking over your tax return, even if it's just a consultation, right? I think that you can go to, watch any of my YouTube stuff, because you can't just be finding people on the internet, following their advice. But there are some basic things when you're looking to make sure that your taxes are aligned correctly for you, right? Your first strategy should be to automate your spending, the tracking of your spending, right?
Okay.
The second thing you should do is, and I'm going to talk about this tomorrow, but shoebox receipts are not dead. Keep your receipts. Okay, because sometimes people are afraid to take deductions because they don't have the receipt, right?
But do you have to have, but now, and I'm glad you brought this point up, is you now have an accounting electronically. So do you still have to have a physical receipt? Are your bank accounts, or your bank account statements and that sort of thing, if you were to get audited, would that be enough? Or do you need to still have boxes of receipts in order to reconcile your...
So boxes of receipt, no, you don't need boxes of receipt to reconcile. But the first thing that'll happen when you get audited, let me give you guys a secret. Report everything that flowed through your bank statements. Okay, because the first thing that the IRS will do is do a bank statement analysis. They're going to track how much income you got in, and they really don't care about what you spent your money on. Their goal is to look at, that's what you need to be interested in. So no, you don't have to keep every receipt. If you're audited, $75. If they ask you for a receipt and it's over $75, the IRS expects you to be able to, show your receipts, right? But to audit proof yourself, there's automation that exists right now.
Yes.
We automate our clients. It's a part of our system. So the way we save our clients money is we automate it. So I'm not trying to turn our viewers into, accountants or tax people, right? All I'm trying to say is that life is in living color. Okay, so even though we have online banking, even though we have all these beautiful automations that really help us, track things, if you were audited, you still are going to have to show those receipts. So what I have some systems that I put in place, but I'm saying, worst case scenario, snap a picture. We all have a cell phone now, right? Snap the picture, make sure you keep your receipts and save it in one spot. Because you want to whatever you need to do and we had talked about mindset shift. If keeping every receipt gives you the confidence to go into your accountant and take every deduction that you deserve, do that. Because
that's good. That's good. I want to stop you there, Spicita, because next, where we're going to go into a great transition is execution. We've talked about mindset, we've talked about strategy, and now what I want for our viewers to do is not just take this information and say, hey, she had some great ideas, but I want to talk about what are the 3 top things you believe folks should execute on to begin to keep more of what they earn. So don't go anywhere, folks. My conversation is with Spicita Jackson. She's a CPA based in Atlanta. She has her own practice and she's been helping regular folks and business owners just like you keep more of what they earn. are the only bins that will accommodate larger rollerboards.
They put 10 in here?
10, and you don't come out till you die. And you eat him, you hoop 10.
Oh my God.
So what?
I'm Deborah Owens, and I hope you've been taking a lot of this information in. Today, we're talking about how to turn your wages into wealth with Spicita Jackson. She's a CPA out of Atlanta. Let's welcome her back onto the program. Spicita, I now want to talk about actually executing on some of the strategies that you've really given us today. And so I want to start with mindset. And the first thing you said was that, listen, you've got to, I guess we both agree that you've got to stop looking at taxes as just an obligation. So if I'm going to make that shift, what's the one thing that I could do that can make a great impact?
The one thing that you can do is, like I was saying earlier, keep your, you know what? I don't want to make people feel like they need to be bogged down with keeping receipts. But what I do want them to do is to track their spending, because that's so easy to do, because we have online banking. Most people, you're going to get your paycheck, is going to go straight into your bank account, direct deposit. And then you're going to spend your money either via a debit card or a credit card, right? All of that stuff gets automated. I say, let's put that into a system and do automated expense tracking so that you can have the confidence you need to take the deduction that you deserve.
I love that, the deduction that you deserve. And then let's talk about strategy. I mean, you went through a number of different strategies that people could employ. But if you're listening to this program, what do you think is the most important thing that would make the most impact for, the greatest amount of people who are viewing this program?
I would say the greatest thing you can do is invest in your financial future, right? And what I mean by that is, don't say that you can't afford to hire a professional, okay? Hiring a professional saves thousands of dollars. I know, because I've seen it happen, right? You may pay someone a couple $100s for a consultation, and they save you thousands. So I hear this all the time. If I were to give you $1, right? Or you were to give me $1 and I were to hand back to you $5, would you do that exchange? And because if you hand me $1 and I keep handing you back $5, that's what getting professional advice is. Because every time you work with a professional who understands your tax situation, right, you're not losing dollars and you're allowing your money to grow.
It's so true. Sometimes I become so frustrated with people, because in our community, Wealthy you see all the mistakes that they've made, all the decisions that they made. And oftentimes it's after they've made a decision or gotten poor advice that they're now seeking to increase their knowledge, when if they had increased their knowledge prior to. I often say, Spicita, that financial ignorance is expensive. And so just to clarify that, I think the point that you're making is that stop looking at things as an expense and look at things on a return on investment. going back to your point, don't look at the tree, look at the fruit from the tree. I get it. And then finally, when it comes to, we talked about mindset, we talked about strategy. When we come back, I want to go into what is our analyze, optimize, maximize segment and talk to you. So I want you to think of it from the standpoint, it's a lightning round. We've covered a lot of ground. And so if people were to watch this program, what are the things that they need to analyze, optimize, and maximize so that they can finally keep more of what they earn? We'll when we come back, that's what we're going to discuss. All right, folks, we'll be right back. It's our Analyze, Optimize, Maximize segment.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Welcome back to Get Wealthy. I'm Deborah Owens, and I hope you've been getting wealthy learning about the fact that it's not how much you make, it's how much you keep, and that you can turn your wages into wealth. And that's certainly what Spicita Jackson, a CPA out of Atlanta, is sharing with us. The other thing I want to share, Spicita, come on back and let's go into this analyze, optimize, maximize round. And the other point I wanted to make, that the information, a lot of the strategies that we're talking about, you actually give workshops and intensives that people can attend. And so I'd like for you to just share with our viewers how they can find your website.
Okay, you can find me so easy. Just go to pocketmoreprofit.com. That is, I have something very special that helps. I do a challenge. I do webinars. You can do that. And if you're looking for an accountant, go to accountantthisway.com, and you can follow me on social media.
I love it. So we'll make sure that we put all of that information so that people can learn how they can learn more about, I love this, how to turn your wages into wealth. So we're in our lightning round, analyze, optimize, maximize. So if someone were to, I think I already know the answer to this, but when it comes to taxes, what's the one thing I need to analyze first?
When it comes to taxes, I would say analyze your income. So analyze your income, optimize your expenses, and maximize what you keep.
Analyze your income,
optimize your expenses, and maximize what you keep.
I want you to expand on that. Yeah, so let's go to analyze. So when you say analyze expenses, the point that you're making that I think is an important one.
I said analyze income.
I'm sorry, analyze. Yeah, so there, analyze income. I want to start there because I think it's important that so many people, they're just getting a W-2 and they're not really looking at where their money is going. They're just looking at what they have left over. And so when you say analyze income, give us an example of what you mean by that.
I am just so giggly about this. I'm just like about to pop out of my seat, just so you know. So when I say analyze income, you may be making money as a wage earner, right? But you got to analyze how you made income that way, but how is your income going to grow into wealth? Wages to wealth, right? So you made $200,000. So what, right? What is that? Is that $200,000 going to grow to $1 million, right? So analyze that. How do you do that? Do you put it in retirement? Do you put it in real estate? Do you put it in business? Do you save it from taxes by putting it into an IRA or some tax deferral strategy? Analyze so that you can have more options for your income.
I love that. Now, I'm all about turning your income into assets because that's how you turn it into wealth. So I know we're both talking our love language on this program.
So because you said that, it makes me want to say analyze to get to your assets. How about that?
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about optimize, though. You said analyze your income and optimize your expenses.
Yes, optimize. You want to make sure that you've gotten all of your expenses. You don't want to understate your expenses, because if you understate your expenses, you overstate your income. And income is what you're taxed on, right? So you want to make sure that you capture all of your expenses and you do it legally and at the highest level.
Yeah, but so I think that for so many people, particularly W-2 earners, that they feel like, especially with the recent changes in the tax law, where it increased the amount that you could just take a deduction and not deduct expenses. There are a lot of wage earners that have stopped even thinking that can be a benefit to them. So at what point do you, certainly you always want to track your expenses, but at what point does it become advantageous where you're able to write off a lot of those expenses?
Every day that you spend. And so as you were speaking, let me change my language, because I work with small business owners a lot. So I use the word expenses. Let me say disbursements. Let me say the money you spending, right? I want you to maximize the money you spend, optimize it so that as you're spending it, right, and it's going out, cash outflows. Optimize your cash outflows, okay? Because you got money coming in, right, from earning your wages, but how does that money leave? You want to make sure that when it leaves, it grows and you say, bye-bye, see you soon.
I love it, because that's one of the points I love to make in Wealthy You, is that the difference between having a wealth mindset and an income mindset, or earner mindset and an owner mindset, really is taking your income and turning it into assets that are going to grow in the future, as opposed to it just being something that's going out of your pocket. Love it, love it. So now I want to go. So you said analyze your expenses, right?
Income.
I'll get this. Analyze your income, optimize your expenses, and maximize
cash outflow. We're not going to say expenses. We're going to say cash outflow.
Okay, cash outflow, and then maximize.
Maximize what you keep. And so, because what you keep is wealth, right? It's not, because what you don't keep is someone else's wealth. And so you have to maximize what you keep and make sure that it's going into what I say is good ground, so that you're going to hear me say this a million times, so that it can grow on, because wealth grows.
Planting a seed. Wow, you've covered a lot of ground here, Spicita. I just love the work that you're doing, but more importantly, that you're helping people to understand that taxes really are your biggest expense. Leave our audience with a closing comment. If you could leave them with something that you think can inspire them and help them to turn their wages into wealth, what would it be?
I would say, and life is taxed. Know the rules, play the game, and win. Life is taxed. Know the rules, run the course, and control your expenses and control your tax bill.
I love that. Spicita Jackson, CPA out of Atlanta. You can learn more about her at her website. We'll make sure that you have all the information and you learn about many of her challenges, her upcoming intensives, so that you can keep more of what you earn. When we come back, the 3 takeaways from today's show. Don't go anywhere, folks. We'll be right back.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it. This is about covering us. Invest in Black-owned media. Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks. We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible. Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Deborah Owens, America's Wealth Coach, and I hope you've been getting wealthy from today's program. We were really here to share with you how you can turn your wages into wealth. So here are the 3 takeaways from today's show. Number 1, you need a money team. And so don't necessarily take all the advice you hear as gospel. You need to know someone that knows your specific situation. And that leads me to the fact is that all tax advice that you hear is not actually accurate. So just because you're hearing people say it over and over on social media doesn't make it true. And then finally, you really, as she said, need to learn how to use tax advantage strategies so that you can pay less. Because as Spicita Jackson says, taxes are your biggest expense. That's going to do it for me for this episode of Get Wealthy. Keep watching right here, only on Black Star Network.